This was a great interview. I had missed talking to Thomas, Tired Kid, for a while. As you'll hear, we met pretty close to the start of both of our careers, either 2018 or 2019, nearly 5 or 6 years ago. And as he says near the end of the podcast, it's always nice to check in once in a while with each other. He's just a good, humble guy. He has a lot of really cool stories in this podcast about Europe and playing around and what he's up to as an artist himself. He works pretty regularly with Aaron Goldstein, who, at the time of recording this intro at least, is only a few episodes back in this podcast series. So if you want to listen to Aaron's episode after this episode, you should. And lastly, I break in halfway through during the interview. I don't stop anything. So unfortunately, Thomas had to just sit through it. But I was talking about a new venue that's opened up called Harmony Hall. It's kind of around Aurora, Stouffville, which I know for a lot of the Toronto people who are listening to this is a bit of a hike, but uh, it's very worth going. I explain halfway through why it's worth going, so look out for that. But at least at the beginning of this episode, I just wanted to cut in again and basically say, check it out, look it up on Instagram. It's called Harmony Hall. It's sort of two floors of a refurbished, very old dance hall, actually over 100 years old. And for people who know the Baby G, it's kind of a similar size and maybe 150 to 200 or just under cap. I think they're going to slightly make it bigger somehow to add a few more, maybe literally a few more people to the capacity, but it's fantastic. I can't say enough good things. I saw a show at the time of recording this. I saw a show yesterday, and I'm actually going to go see another show tonight. The show I saw yesterday was headlined by Burs, and in addition to becoming a Harmony Hall believer and convert, I am a Burs believer and convert. Just wanted to also jump in and say tickets, $10 tickets, are still available for the live event at the Cornerstone in Guelph, where I will be interviewing Freightliner and As Wilson's band live, as well as you'll get to see a concert, a full set from them live. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's the first live version of this podcast. Check it out. $10. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's great to have you. You alluded to this just before I started the recording, but we have a lot to talk about. I mean, I feel like we've been around each other or known each other now for quite a while, like
hmm
in passing at the very least. Like we met playing on the same lineup at the Cavern, right?
Yeah.
Which is now
But
like 5 years ago at least,
I think so. Yeah. About 5 years ago, I would say
which
five or
is
six.
crazy. We
Yeah.
we outlasted the Cavern, you know.
We did. Yeah. Oh, this is not there anymore. I don't know.
I
I
don't
haven't.
think so. Maybe, well, I
Okay.
hope somebody listening, I hope somebody's not at the Cavern listening to this on their lunch break, like, we still exist. Thank you
Yeah.
very
I'm
much.
I'm here. I'm drinking a cappuccino and doing some studying.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it wasn't a bad place to like kind of cut your teeth. They'd give you some options to play on some bills, and it was cool to see. For the people who don't know, it was in the basement of a hostel.
hmm
So you'd
Yeah.
have some German guy or something come up to you and be like, "That was very good."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah. It
great.
was great. It was just a nice little kind of meeting spot for people coming in and out of the city and traveling, and then I imagine too, like it seemed like there was a younger crowd there, maybe
Yeah.
just like, going to school or that sort of thing. And so you got kind of a nice mix of people just hanging out and very rather receptive audience, as I recall.
Very kind, but
Yeah.
I actually that's something we could get into. Ironically, I think that's because it was a lot of people. You're right that it was students, but if it
hmm
wasn't students, if it wasn't students based in Toronto or Canada, then it
Mhm.
was like European students who were coming abroad to travel and wanted to check out Toronto or something. And
Yeah.
so what I was going to get at is I think in general, if I can super generalize based on continents, uh, Europeans are
Hmm.
more, they're warmer right away to live music and arts, in my opinion. So
Hmm.
it could be why,
Yeah.
like, they're here for one night in Toronto. They were coming from Munich. They're actually trying to head to LA, and Toronto is the stop off. And they're like, yeah, let's go see a local band that has no followers and they're playing in the basement of this hostel. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, also, to speak to that as well, that having just gone on a tour with Espanola last year
Yeah,
in Europe, that was exactly the experience. Like
really.
every place that we played, um, had a great turnout, regardless of the size of the venue. There always felt like there were a lot of people who were really supportive and into it. And whether
Exactly.
whether or not they were there to see us play or like another band that we were playing with, everyone was really into it, and you could tell that that was a very different from some of the crowds that you get playing over here. I felt.
Yeah, it's almost like even when your fans in Toronto come to your shows, sometimes they appear indifferent, even if internally they're not. But it's just
Yes.
they seem more in Europe open to outwardly expressing themselves in support, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I want to hear more about, we can get into the questions obviously, but I want to hear more about the tour. Like you're playing a bunch of, this is sort of what we can talk about or go through, but like we said, you and I have known each other now for a while, and it's been cool, at least from my perspective, seeing you grow. You're playing with great acts, you're doing still your own thing with Tired Kid, which is growing. And I'm just curious how it feels for you. Like, look back 5 years ago. Would 5 years ago you, Thomas, be impressed with now, Thomas?
I think so,
Yeah.
because I think some of the stuff that I've really gotten a chance to do in like the last year or two, um, were goals that I had 5+ years ago. And even though I knew some of those people then, I wasn't necessarily in the same place or maybe had the same type of um, confidence to be able to do that sort of thing.
So tell
Uh,
me more about
so
that. What are some examples?
just in terms like, well, I guess um, like having this tour, going on this tour with Espanola, like with
Yeah.
Aaron,
Yeah.
um, was definitely something that was really cool, and that like 5 years ago, I knew Aaron.
Right, right.
Like just, he's really kind of helped me kind of get to the place that I am now in like every sense of the
He
word. But
talked about you very, very sweetly in his episode. It was great.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I will return the favor for sure. But yeah, I guess it's just like there are certain acts that I had been drawn to, and I guess I like could envision myself. It's like, oh, it'd be really cool to play with those bands, like just
Hmm.
bands that you look up to in a way, just based on what they're doing.
Totally.
And there, it's kind of a bit of a you set at least a starting point for how you hope to where you could get to at some point.
Yeah, it's like a
Um,
North Star for your goals.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that in a general sense, like Aaron and I have collaborated in different ways, him producing my stuff, and he's played with me as well.
Hmm.
But I think getting a chance to play in his band and then do the tour and then some, really was kind of like a like looking at it now, it's like, wow, that really was like kind of a milestone, and also something that I'd hoped to do. Just a tour in general was something that I'd wanted to do for a long time, but didn't really know how to do it, how to
So
go
by,
about it.
sorry to cut you off, by tour, are you referring to the tour you did just go on with Espanola, or are you referring to maybe a tour that you've done now as Tired Kid?
No, sorry, the with Espanola.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because yeah, I haven't done. I mean, I've played my own shows
Yes.
around and mostly in the city, and I've gotten a chance to do a couple outside of the city. But
Yeah.
I would say that the only real touring experience that I've had, for the most part, has been with Espanola.
Right.
And then also doing getting to do like a couple shows with Juliana Riolino as well,
Very cool.
and experiencing that. That's kind of the length of my experience so far. So
Gotcha.
hoping for more opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm sure they'll come based on the people you're playing with and the hard work you do yourself. I mean, it's obvious. You're like reaping the benefits of the hard work that you've done. It's not, put it this way, I don't see you as somebody who through one way, or what's the best way to say this? I see you as having gotten your uh career highlights or everything you're talking about through hard work, not through some other roundabout way. So it's great to see that, you know what I mean?
nice. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you. Um, it's definitely it's something that I think, and maybe you can agree to this. It's like something over time that kind of pays off in a way, and you don't necessarily think about. Sometimes you have to stop and think about where you were a few years ago and
Yep.
what you did then, and how in each way everything has kind of contributed to where you are now, even if it wasn't and it like even if you can't always picture a point where you there was a leap, and maybe it didn't come sooner as soon as you had maybe hoped at the time, but every little step along the way really counts, and it's
Absolutely. People
so.
see people I think generally and myself in the past too and it sounds like you maybe in the past too, you expect these giant or not expect because you deserve them, but expect because you've heard about past success stories being these leaps forward. And the reality is, for the most part, it's just very incremental, one step at a time, so small you don't even realize they're steps forward necessarily. And
Mhm.
only then can you look back and go, oh no, a lot has changed since I made those goals or had those
Yeah.
goals. Yeah. Like even the people that you're touring with, but also I'm sure that's the case with your own music and Tired Kid. Like when I first knew you, I think maybe you had just put out an EP, which was 4 songs.
Yep.
Uh, and then, whatever, 2 or 3 years later, you would put out the full LP, which Aaron produced, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, no, it just seems like it's easier for me to see because I'm on the outside, you know what I mean? As opposed to, I always relate it to like you don't notice your hair growing, but if I don't see you for a month, I'll notice your hair growth. It's like
Yes.
that kind of thing, you
Exactly.
know? Yeah. Well,
Totally.
let's I want to talk more about the touring actually. So you were just in Europe with Espanola, is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Last fall we played, I guess almost coming up on a year now.
Hmm.
Um, we did a bunch of dates in the Netherlands, and
Wow.
we did one in Belgium, and then we did some in the UK as well. So it was like a chunk of Netherlands, Belgium,
Hmm.
and then we went to the UK, and then finished. The last show was in the UK as well.
Had you ever been
And
to Europe before?
yeah, it was. Yes, I had been to Europe before a
Okay.
few times, but never played music over there.
Right, so that's really the dream
So
is
that
you were
was
going
definitely
in that capacity.
yeah, for
Hmm.
sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was so much fun, and the whole band, the whole Espanola band is really great, and we all just gelled really well together and got to hang out too. It was really a fun tour to be on.
Yeah, I believe
So.
that. I believe something I always ask or like to ask now, especially because I'm somewhat familiar with a lot of the small venues in Toronto and some of the surrounding areas, but obviously not at all in Europe. This is just a fun side question. What were the green rooms like, if there were green rooms?
um, Well, yeah, it honestly it really depended where you were playing.
Hmm.
Sometimes and usually depended on the size too of the
Of
venue.
course. Yeah.
But like there was one place that we played in the UK that didn't have a green room. They had kind of a separate front bar entrance, and
Hmm.
then they had the venue in the back. So the bar entrance was kind of like offered as like, you can hang out here. This is like where this is your green room sort of thing, but
I
it's
see.
it's it's like open to the public.
So it's a little
So
bit like almost if as though the horseshoe didn't have a green room and the green room was that front hall bar section.
exactly, yeah, that it
Okay.
would be exactly like that.
Okay.
Um, and then yeah, like there were a couple places were like that, especially if like the places that were more bar oriented, like
hmm
setup wise,
hmm
they didn't necessarily have a green room. It was like maybe like a back room or like an upstairs, like
Which
you know,
impresses me personally anyway. The bar is low for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and then but that could also be like the supplies room
hmm
and
hmm
where there are kegs and
Yep.
everything. So it's like a storage room, but also like here are a few chairs
Storage room,
and
but
a
also
little
store
table.
the band room. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, it was really, I mean, obviously, like none of that mattered. It was just so cool
No, no, no.
to be there and to play, and anything was a bonus, really.
Yes, I completely agree. Like that's why I like to ask about it though. It's all it is a bonus. Like I don't honestly think anybody's necessarily deserving of a green room unless it has to do with like security. Like Taylor Swift probably should have a green room.
Yeah, exactly. Just for safety reasons,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Or like one of my favorite green rooms, I'm using air quotes, and this is not a disparaging comment. I mean this is a positive comment, is Monarch Taverns, which is just behind a curtain.
Yeah, that's
Which
great.
it's great to me. Like it's still it's like a green space as opposed to a green room, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Um, so that was your experience in Europe. That's cool. That's a very different mix from, if I can generalize, between like playing in England or the UK and then playing in the Netherlands, for example. Did you find the people were different or receptive to music in different ways, or the crowds were different or anything like that?
Um, I felt like I guess maybe the crowds were a little bit different, but the generally speaking, everyone was very into the
hmm
music and very appreciative that we were there. But I know that there's some of the like because we had gone down to play. There was a festival in particular in the Netherlands that I think the whole tour was kind of built around, and that
Mm-hmm.
was specifically a venue for bands to play all together with people kind of going in and out of each room, and it
Mm.
was like kind of like an indoor like whatever you could compare it to like festival wise, but all like indoors.
Whoa.
um and so they had multiple different rooms, and so like just like being at something like that, like everyone is there to just hang out and
Right, right.
go.
Nobody's coming in and passing. They're there to be there.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
like they're moving between rooms, so once one band is done, they're like congregating over to the next room, and then regardless of if they know who's playing or not,
hmm
you're just gonna get. It was just a great turnout and experience.
Were the rooms separated by genre or anything like that?
Um, I think maybe to a degree, but it was I don't know, maybe like obviously like if like the bands that were maybe headlining the festival, they would have maybe like a there was like a larger room designated
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
that band sort of thing. So there was maybe a bit of a hierarchy, but
Right.
it didn't really affect the turnout of the audience.
Yeah, right,
I
right.
think everyone was um like either if they were like going up to like the auditorium or going down to like like we were playing in like kind of like this like basement room,
hmm
um but it was like everyone was just there to have a good time, and yeah, the audience was very receptive, and yeah, the turnout was great.
That sounds great, especially because I mean, I guess just like in North America, everybody likes all kinds of music, but I don't
Mhm.
necessarily think immediately of Espanola style of music as like it's going to crush in the Netherlands. I don't know what I think of
Right.
Netherlands music, but I
Yeah,
it's that's cool that they were super into it, you know?
yeah, I think also like there is because there's a lot of like classic rock influences to the band, and
Yes, that's true. Good
I
point.
think that is well received over there
Sure.
as well. Like there is like a you know 70s rock element to it.
There's a very healthy appetite for that still
Yeah,
over there. Yeah.
for sure. So I think that helps.
What was the name of the festival, if you can remember?
Take root.
Kick Root, spelled like
Take
it's take root.
take root. Yeah.
Take root, spelled in English like it's English.
Yep.
Okay,
like
okay.
yeah, take root, two separate words.
Yes, I see. A
Yeah, and I
play
think
on
it's
like a lot of it is maybe roots-based music, but then up from
exactly.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that they do it annually, I believe. Like it's
Cool.
a, and it kind of falls around this time of year, like in the
Okay,
fall.
sweet. Yeah. And I feel like that's the kind of thing for you as a musician, like now I'm speaking it's in terms of Tired Kid.
Hmm.
Part of the great thing, there are so many great things about being brought on to a project like Espanola that, air quotes, bigger than you are at the moment, so you can meet all of these people and get all of this experience and whatever. But I was talking to Pillow Fight about this, and networking is a huge part of it, especially over in Europe. Like now there
It is.
you've met all of those people, and now there's
Hmm.
a chance that you could take Tired Kid over there to some of those places, right?
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
could figure that out. Yeah, yeah. So that's exciting. I'm very glad to hear everything that's happened with those few bands, even like you were saying, Juliana Riolino.
Mhm.
What was that like? Because that's a pretty different vibe.
It is. But it's a lot of fun as well.
Hmm.
There's definitely a crossover in terms of like, Juliana works with Aaron as well,
Yeah.
and he produces her music, and then like there's a common kind of vibe in terms of just like the like you're just playing music with your friends
Yes, I
still. There
see. I
there is
see.
a certain down to earth like realness that comes playing with both bands.
I think
And
that
even
comes
though
probably, it stems from a lot of you, but I feel like Aaron gives that off a lot and
yeah,
sets that tone.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so even if the music is a little different, um it's it's still in its own way, it's still a lot of fun, and there is a compatibility for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't mean you went from like Espanola to like bubblegum pop or anything like that.
Right.
Although that would be fun to see you play bubblegum pop. But
Yeah, in the right context, it might be fun
yeah,
to do
exactly.
that.
Fun little challenge or add your own flavor to that. Your
Yeah.
flavor of bubblegum. That worked out nicely.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
well, yeah, I want to hear about what you have been working on recently as Tired Kid. So, you just uploaded a video that I commented on.
Mhm.
You played at a winery, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Good friends of mine, they have a winery out in Prince Edward County.
Lovely
Um,
area.
yeah, really, really nice. And they just put on, it was like their first music festival
Whoa.
that
Oh,
they put
okay.
on. And yeah,
What's
it
that
was,
called? Let's give it a little shout out.
I think referred to it as Three Dog Night. It was
Okay.
the Three Dog Winery is the name of the winery.
Oh, I've been there, I'm
And
pretty sure.
it's like, yeah, so I don't know if the festival had a name, but Three Dog Night because it was a night at Three Dog Winery.
Okay.
And yeah, it was great. It was so much fun just to be around people that I've known for so long, and also just people that go to support music in the county as well, and to
Hmm.
support the winery as well, because they have a good returning um, audience of just people who come to visit and hang out there. So I think it was a nice mix of that.
100%. That area is a really interesting area because on the one hand, again, I'm going to generalize. I'm generalizing. This podcast could be called generalizing, but I'm going to generalize about the area. It's fairly high income, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And so you don't always expect that group of people to be like the most into going to see a music festival or going to see whatever. They're more winery oriented than they are maybe live music oriented.
Yeah.
However, there's a huge other section of Prince Edward County that is like painters and people running galleries and stuff like that. So there actually is it's like the perfect mix of those two general types of people, in my opinion. And often they're the
Mhm.
same person, just different interests. But
Yeah.
no, that's so nice to hear that that was the case and that it was the first sort of festival or whatever, and it went well. I hope. Do you know if they have plans to do it again next year?
I think so. I think I don't obviously I don't know if anything is confirmed, but I'm
No, no,
sure
of
that
course. Yeah.
I know that it is a goal, and I based on the turnout of this one, I can
Hmm.
see it becoming a thing
Yeah. Okay.
um, where you know people just are drawn to it every year, and just grows and grows. And yeah, so here's to hoping that that keeps going because
Exactly. It'll
I
become
would
its
love
own
that.
little Woodstock. People pay attention. It'll become a little Woodstock where people will come.
Yeah, totally.
Um, well, we're already talking a bit about good shows, but the first question I usually ask officially is what is your best gig memory? So maybe it comes from your recent tour or
Yeah, it's honestly it's hard to pick just one, but I think that that would honestly that Three Dog one would probably definitely be up there, just in
really?
terms of
Oh,
overall vibe and feel. And the weather was great. We were outside. The sound was great. So many good factors
yeah.
to come into play to judge like a you know like a level of excitement for a
Mm-hmm.
show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it really kind of crosses, checks all the boxes in that regard.
That's amazing.
Um,
Anybody interested in seeing a snippet of this should go to Tired Kids, the Tired Kid Instagram page, and there's going to be a clip or some clips at the very least of the
yeah,
performance. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I did post like a link that with all the YouTube videos, all of the clips on there that can be watched. And
Okay,
then
great. Yeah.
we also we played a show with David James Allen
Hmm.
and Kojak, and their band is also on there too. And yeah, there's just a bunch of great.
Is
Um,
Kojak, is that, oh, I'm thinking Cujo. I was thinking they named it after the dog from the Stephen King novel.
oh,
What's Kojak? Do you know what that is?
like what the name refers
Is it
to?
a reference to something or is it somebody's last name or something like that?
To be honest, I do not know.
Okay, fair enough. This is my own
Um,
fault, listeners and Thomas. I mixed up with Cujo, which would be a cool band name. The Killer
that
Dog in
would
a
be a cool.
Stephen King novel. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe different type of music for sure.
Maybe punk or metal or something, but yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
But yeah, they're great. They're a really, really solid type band. And yeah, it was just a good mix,
Is it
I
very
think.
generally genre closer to yours, or is it a wide array of genre styles?
I would say that it definitely is like roots
Hmm.
based for
Hmm.
sure. Um, like there was a compatibility between our bands.
Yeah,
Um, but I would say we weren't like we don't sound too similar that it was like,
that's what you
watching.
want. You want
Exactly.
like a 50% overlap style, or maybe like a 33% overlap style. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I th think that's good. Okay. Well, yeah, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to be maybe get into the specifics a little bit more of it. Like, what was it like? Um, what's a good way to phrase this? When you arrived for the festival, how was it set up where it was like you just go in, play, and then you leave? Were you able to stay in the town? Uh, Stuff like that.
Oh, like in for the
For
winery,
Three Dog. Yeah, yeah,
Three
yeah.
Dog. Well,
Did you get free wine? You know, that kind of thing.
right. Yes. There was. So my friends who own the winery, they
Yes.
also have a property on like in the like by the vineyard as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and there is an Airbnb there, and there was accommodation in that way.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
So I could stay there, and
Because I
then
find that that's very attractive to touring musicians. Like that, not enough places do. I know it's tough, but not enough
yeah,
places do that. So it's great to hear.
yeah. So yeah, that was a plus for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and and then yeah, because it was at the winery, the then wine of course was
Was
served
flowing.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
was flowing, and then they also they had Slake Brewery out there,
Oh, hmm.
and they're also based in the county, and so there was like a beer option as well.
Wow, great.
So yeah, it was all like local, like every the food and the drink was all locally sourced in the sense that it was
Coming from the county.
coming from the county.
Yeah, that's
So it
lovely.
really was like a county. It really was like a county festival.
That's awesome. I think and like you said, it was a really good turnout.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally. Yeah,
sweet. Was it a real mix of people? Like, was it, I guess a good question is, was it young and old? Was it families?
yeah.
Was it what, that kind of
I,
stuff?
yeah, I think it was a bit of all of that.
Okay,
Um,
good.
again, like I would say more the people that I met, I think were more kind of from that area.
Hmm.
But there were some people who had commuted as well
Like
to
from
come.
Toronto or
I
other?
I think so, yeah,
Wow.
and just from around. But I would say that there was definitely a prominent returning fan base just to the winery, just
That's
from
amazing. Just
it being in the area
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Wow,
So
that's I'm very glad to hear about that.
yeah, no, it was cool. It's like yeah, I hope that it does turn into something down the road for for other artists and just continues to grow in however it can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anybody listening who thinks that sounds good, honestly, as soon as we're done this interview, I'm probably going to look it up. But go check it out, give the account a follow, all of those things will help uh make them feel like they should do another festival probably. So, yeah, everybody
Really,
listening, go support it. Let's take a downturn. What do you think is the worst gig that you've played?
the worst gig.
Yeah.
I not to like put any well, I not to put any shade towards any venue or
No,
anything,
no,
but
no, sure. You don't need to name names. You can just sort of talk around that
right.
stuff if you'd like.
Well, so I played a Tired Kid show like a couple years ago, and it just was a harder one to promote, I guess.
Hmm.
It wasn't, as, big a turnout as you could hope. And the promoter at the end of the show handed me a $20 bill and he was like, "I'm sorry."
Oh,
Like it's just like it is, it happens.
it is what it is,
It
sort
is
of
what it
thing.
is. And so that was kind of like not great, but
Can I
like the
ask just
show,
generally what city was it? Was it Toronto?
it was
Okay,
Toronto.
it's Toronto. Okay.
It just was just like not, not able to bring enough people out to 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 get paid
Yeah.
accordingly. And but other than that, like we had a good time. It was, you
So it
know,
was a full band Tired Kid show. It wasn't a
yeah,
sole. Okay, okay. That's
yeah.
tough. Yeah.
But that was still yeah, I was like, oh, that kind of kind of stung a little bit.
Yeah, it takes the wind out of your sails a bit sometimes.
Yeah. But honestly, like aside from that, I've had a lot of fun playing shows just regardless of turnout and who comes. Like, I say that was the worst one, but
It was
it
still
had
fun.
nice moments to it.
Right.
So it's really hard for me to be like, oh, this was like a tough show.
That's a very good attitude to have. I think that's really certainly long term, very healthy. Like it's natural for someone to feel down if something like that happens. I've experienced that, of course, as well. I think
Yeah.
probably most musicians, if not all, have experienced that at least a few times starting out.
Hmm.
Um, but the one thing that sticks out from this bad, in your opinion, worst show or whatever, is at least the booker said sorry. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they're assholes about it as well, but it sounds
Right.
like this person was at least like, sorry, dude, it's
Hmm.
just this is how it worked out, and you got a $20 bill, you know?
Yep.
It's something,
Yep. No, totally.
Um, can I ask
Yeah.
again, don't say the venue or anything like that, but have you played the venue since then and had a better show?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well good. Then that's a better turnout than for a lot of other people. Like, what if it had been a terrible show in Europe and it's like, I'm not going to be back there for fucking 5 years. That's just has to live in my memory forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, that's good.
Yeah. And I mean, for the record, all the shows that we played in Europe and the UK were all really fun shows. So I wouldn't even I can't have any negative things to say
Wow.
of
We should all just move to Europe, clearly,
yeah.
Wow. That sounds awesome. Well, do you have any, speaking of Europe, do you have any plans to go back yourself with Tired Kid or with Espanola again or Juliana or anybody?
Um Again, like nothing is locked in right now. I would love to do like a Tired Kid thing over there at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't feel like I'm necessarily ready at the moment.
Okay.
But if it's not with a tired doing a Tired Kid thing, then maybe I'll get the opportunity with another band and
Yeah, exactly.
to do that again. I love the experience of going and traveling and then just being able to play in different places.
Hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be my own thing to do
No,
it,
no, exactly, exactly.
but it's something that I think I would like to do at some point.
That's well related to that because Europe is such a it sounds amazing, but it's much harder to get to than fucking Sudbury or something.
Right.
What about playing just outside of like you said you play in Toronto a lot. You've had the opportunity a little bit to play it around, like you just mentioned
Mhm.
the that festival in Prince Edward County. What about
Mhm.
other places like any plans to go Montreal, for example, or something like that?
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. Like to play in Montreal would be really cool.
Yeah,
Um, I haven't, but I right now I'm not really looking to necessarily book like a
mini
mini
tour. It's more
tour.
like individual shows that you'll still
Yeah, I
set up.
think also like I'm not releasing anything currently right now. Like I am
Hmm.
working on a new record
Right.
with Aaron.
Cool. Yeah, great.
Um, so but I think until I kind of have solidified some type of a release around that, then I think I'm just kind of happy doing one-off shows here and
Hmm.
there.
So right now you're
Um,
very much still in the thick of the creation of the record. You don't have even like a 6 month ballpark release time in the future or anything like that.
yeah, not at the moment.
Okay.
Still just like writing songs, to be honest.
Cool. Yeah,
Like
that's exciting.
we've done a lot of recording on it so far, but I it's still not finished. I'm still kind of in like creating mode. Um,
Sometimes that's the most fun part.
yeah,
I would argue of the entire process. It's like you're
yeah,
in the middle of creating, but half of the ideas are still as perfect as they'll ever be because they're in your mind. And it's this
hmm
nice in between. Because when you finish, even if you're super happy with your release, like I've experienced this, it doesn't ever end up exactly how you imagined in the middle of it.
no, exactly. And I think that's what I like about the whole thing. I might have a certain idea of how it should sound or how I picture it sounding before going in, but then just being open to things kind of sounding a little different or maybe better than
Hmm.
I would have thought
Yeah.
is like I feel like is like a good just kind of mindset to be in.
Well, also, it's
Um,
great that you found somebody, it sounds like, in Aaron that like you never want to feel inhibited or self-conscious when you bring creative ideas to somebody. And it sounds like you both get along really well and speak the same language and there's a comfort the comfort to be vulnerable and bring these things forward and that
yeah,
leads to fun surprises that take the project in a new direction. Sounds like.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we're about halfway through the questions. I have not done this yet, but I'm going to do it this time because yesterday, as in the day before we are recording this, which is October 19th. Um, I went to Harmony
Mhm.
Hall. Have you heard about it? Harmony Hall?
Harmony Hall?
Yeah,
No, no, I haven't.
okay, so it's a new venue. North of like Markham. So
Okay,
it's a bit of a hike to get up to, but I want to point it out first of all because it's new and I want want it to get 30 legs under it or whatever. But I saw Burs play yesterday. I'm wearing a Burs shirt for people watching. That's when I bought it.
nice.
And yep. And I guess basically I'm doing a little ad for them in the middle of this podcast that they haven't asked me to do because I thought it was amazing. It's got everything you would want that a Toronto venue has, except more things. So, like, yes, it's a little bit out of the way. It's sort of around Aurora or Stouffville, but for touring acts, you can sleep over there, which is like nothing
A
else in
big
Toronto
plus.
fucking has that. You just hear
Yeah.
about it randomly in like Quebec City or Kingston or something, or in Europe. So I wanted to point that out. That's a huge selling point. It's like 150 cap, but I think they're gonna open it up to be a little bit more. But basically, if anybody knows this venue, picture the Baby G sort of size, but instead at like 100-plus-year-old refurbished dance hall. Like it's somewhere that you could shoot a music video and it would look like a high school dance before people go off to war or something. It's awesome the way
Oh,
it's set up.
nice.
And there's a whole basement section that is like a lounge that has pinball of all things. It's got a few couches. You can buy alcohol and non-alcohol and all that stuff everywhere. So anyway, sorry to make you sit through this, but partially I want to advertise it to you and the people listening. Definitely check out Harmony Hall. It's spelled the way it sounds. I'm a true
Okay.
convert. I'm a believer. Um, I thought it was amazing, and my guess is people will be hearing about it a lot more as time goes on. Like I said, it's October 19th right now. Tonight is their like grand, huge opening thing.
Oh,
Um,
sweet. Okay.
yeah, so anyway, look that up. People listening, look it up. Anyway, we can get back to the podcast now.
Cool.
Um, this brings us to our third question, which is for tired kid music. Because I only want you to talk about your music for these. I wouldn't want you to like trash an Española song at choosing your worst song or something. But in this case, what do you think is the best tired kid song?
I would say that maybe, well, I do have a couple songs that are unreleased that I'm really excited
Okay,
about.
which is
But
great, but I don't
yeah,
want you to give that stuff away. I want it to be stuff that people can listen
but
to.
for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the last song that I put out was Scotch, and I put that out
Yep.
over a year ago. But I
Yep.
think that was definitely that's definitely one of the songs that I feel the best about, just for
I
new
love that
material.
song. Yeah.
Because thank you.
Yeah. I love that song and I love the video. People should go listen and watch it.
It's yeah, I'm really happy with the video too, and the song as well. Like it just was. It was the first thing too that I had. I remember going into the studio like during the pandemic and
Hmm.
having not done anything else before for a while, and so the song was approached. I had different ideas and fresh ideas about what to do music wise and
Hmm.
everything, and so it was the first thing that was new that had come out of all of that. And so I think that it just feels like it feels like a stronger release than some of the other stuff that I've put out. And based on what I've heard from other people, they seem to like it. And so yeah, I would say that would be probably my best release, I guess.
So
My most positive.
why do you think why do you think it worked out so well?
Um, I don't know. I think it was maybe just a combination of like I think I was maybe also in a different place too when I
Hmm.
put it out. Like even in more of like a confident place of putting out new music and then having the video with it and then just it like stylistically doing things that I hadn't done before
Hmm.
in the studio. It just was there was this different type of energy behind it that just
Yes.
kind of backed it up. And I think all of those things kind of contributed to the release itself. Um,
Yeah, I feel like
and
you can sense that actually. If you listen, I love your previous music. Like I liked your music straight from the four song EP that I heard. But you can hear, in my opinion, kind of your confidence grow over releases.
yeah,
So it makes sense that Scotch would be that.
yeah, and exactly like I think that's like exactly what you're saying too is just from like a confidence perspective of starting from the beginning
Hmm.
and then moving through everything.
Yeah.
Um, it feels like my most confident.
Yeah, and Aaron helped you work on that song too, right? He was in the
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then remind me, because I'm pretty sure it's more often a photographer who shot your video.
It was Laura Lynn Petrick.
Yes, who
Yeah.
takes a lot of photos and I guess does some. I've seen some of her other videos, and a lot of them are I don't know if this is actually correct, but like filmic 16 millimeter style
Yep.
looking stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. She shoots on we shot that video on 16 millimeter.
Okay, yeah.
I know she also does Super 8 as
Hmm.
well, and maybe does some like video or like digital video stuff as well.
Right.
But the 16 millimeter was, to be honest, what I was really drawn to.
And really suits the kind of
Um,
music that you're making and the look of the video that you had and how you were dressed.
yeah,
It all like
yes,
converged in a very nice way.
yeah, it was, yeah, it all went really well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was great. It was really fun working with her as well, and I would definitely do that again.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. That's good to hear. People should check that out. We don't need to hear you don't need to sort of what's the best way to put this? I want to ask more about the songs that you're working on,
Mhm.
not telling us the subject or anything like that, but just in keeping with this confidence conversation. Do you
Mhm.
think that these latest songs are again like kind of another step forward? You have the more confidence coming from Scotch and moving forward, and now it's another album. Like, are you in that same mode or an even further mode? Do you find yourself like that?
Yeah, I think so.
I know it's a bit of an
Definitely.
abstract question. It's hard to measure that, but
Well, I think just in terms of like everything that I've done, I always strive to do something a little different than
mm,
what I had done before
hmm
and take everything to a new level because I don't want to just be putting out the same stuff all the time.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
And the
You
stuff
don't
that I
want to
am
be
working on
AC/DC,
now,
you know?
it sounds different in right.
Yeah.
I mean, like nothing against AC/DC.
No, no,
They
no, but
got
that's
some
not what you
solid,
want.
solid tracks.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, that's not what I want. Yeah.
yeah.
And so like the stuff that we're doing in the studio, I'm also like playing with other musicians as
hmm
well.
hmm
Like normally, like Aaron and I usually just do everything ourselves.
hmm
So we play all the instruments together that of the stuff that has been released, it's just essentially just been the two of us.
Wow.
And which is great. It's always worked out really well.
Yeah.
Um, but now I've been introducing like bass and drums with other friends just playing, and that already changes the sound and the dynamic that we have in the studio because now we're playing together, and it just has a different like stylistically and just tonally, it's going to sound different
Yeah,
just
yeah.
from what we've been doing.
Absolutely. It's got
So
it's got
I
other
do feel
fluid
like it is like
influence.
a step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
So
Sorry, I'm losing you a little bit with I'm losing you a bit with the connection. Oh, Jesus. Uh I'm losing you. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. It's me. Um, can you hear me?
you're coming. I can hear you. You're coming through
Okay.
okay here.
Okay, my bad, man. Maybe I think my internet is a little bit off. Maybe we should, if it's possible, we could skip to the last question, which is your worst song.
Of course.
Okay, so let's
My
hear
worst
it.
song. Okay. Uh yeah. Well, I would say not that like I'm happy with all the stuff that I've gotten to record and like put out, but I think maybe the first track that I ever did in the studio, just be it not being necessarily as developed as the stuff that I've done since then, was the first track we did was "The Memory of You," which is the first song on my first EP.
hmm
And even though I like the song, I feel like I've grown since then, and the
It's
songwriting has grown
inevitable.
since then. And
Yep.
so I would say that that's probably my weakest song that I've put out.
Do you still play
Um,
it live?
I don't. I haven't played it
Mhm.
live in a while.
That's usually a test,
Um,
you know.
yeah, but yeah, I would say there's just been there's been just like a progression in terms of in every way, just with all the stuff coming out since then and what I have worked on. That song would be one that is like, okay, I remember when I had written it, I was in a different place, and I still had a lot of practicing to do and development to do.
Yes, absolutely. I know what you mean. I brutally know what you mean. Uh,
Yeah.
well, is it the kind of th I know you don't play it live, but even as you're talking right now and talking about how you've brought on actual other musicians for bass and drums and you're working with Aaron and stuff, um,
Mhm.
could you ever see yourself reviving it live, but totally changing its personality so that it fits more what you're doing?
Yeah. Um, I could see myself doing that. I mean, it would it would maybe have to like I would maybe change the melody a little bit though. Like I would probably do like make some changes to the song to
Yeah,
play it in a new way
yeah,
that wouldn't make it sound that would have to give it its own space and not have it sound like it has.
yes,
Um, and I just haven't. I don't see. I don't really have an inspiration to do that right
I
now.
see. Yeah, of course.
But you never know. Like it might come about one day and sound completely different. Um, yeah.
That's always fun. I don't know how you feel about seeing live acts, but sometimes I'm like it's impressive to see a live act play their songs exactly like they are on the album. But
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, I'm seeing the band live. If I want to hear the song exactly as it is, I'll go listen to it, you know? I want to
Hmm.
see you guys stretch it and make it elastic so that it could maybe the time signature changes and you have to reassemble how it works that way, or melody, or like what you're saying, but it's generally the same song. I
Yeah.
find that way more interesting. Like it's why bootlegs and stuff of live concerts of fucking what's the band that I'm trying to think of that's famous for bootlegs?
The Grateful Dead.
Yeah, it's like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Everything is like a it's like abstract music art based on stuff they've recorded on albums, which is so
Absolutely.
cool. Um, yeah, so maybe that's in your future, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. It could be.
Yeah. Well, again, so sorry about the connection issue. I don't know what happened there because now we're fine. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was really fun to talk to you about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, you too. Like it's thanks for having me and yeah, it's nice to like catch up again too because like you said like we have known each other for like a number of years now and we every time we kind of cross paths and chat it's always nice and
I think
so
so
yeah,
too. Yeah.
it's nice to do this and you know and come from like a just a different place, right? And
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
chat.
No, yeah, you and I have only played maybe on the same bills, weirdly, considering how long we've known each other, and our music is not it's not super similar, but it's not that dissimilar either.
Hmm.
Um, we've only played what, maybe two or three times total on the same lineup?
I think so, yeah, just a couple of times. But that show that we actually, the last show that we did together was a bill that I think you put together at
Yeah,
the Horseshoe,
that
and
was really fun.
that was a really fun show,
That was a
and
really
that
good show, yeah.
really good, yeah. So
Who else was on that? That was you and me and maybe Willem James Cowan from London and maybe Opium Go? Is that right?
uh, no,
Oh
I
Jesus,
think it
I'm going
was
to cut this out.
Fjord Mustang.
Oh, it was. Oh my God. I just forgot them because they have now broken up. Sorry, sorry everybody listening. But fuck, that's embarrassing.
But yeah, it was a fun show.
Was it just the three of us?
I think there were
There were
four
yeah, it was
bands.
four.
I can't again. Apologies
I
to
know,
the
apologies. It was one of the two acts I just mentioned for sure. I just don't know which one. So,
yeah.
whoops. I love you all. Everyone I mentioned
Yes.
was great.
Yeah.
But that was a great show.
It was great. Yeah. And yeah, great audience, great all the bands were awesome. Like I just remember it
It was just a good vibe.
was a good vibe.
It was a good vibe. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Usually at the end,
Yes.
I just have you restate your name, artist name,
Hmm.
and the worst song name.
And the worst song name. Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, my name's Thomas Kelly,
Hmm.
but I go by Tired Kid. Worst song is The Memory of You. But might be transformed into maybe the best song sometime down the line. We'll see.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks
All
again,
right.
man. This was great. Okay.
Yeah, you too, Alex. Thanks for
All right.
having me.
Absolutely. Have a good one, dude.
You too.
Lately, my thoughts have drifted from one place to another, but somehow come back to you. Conflicted by the feelings that arise, they take me by surprise when I think of you. But it's my affection for you that gets in the way. Seasons change and still I remain the same. Locked in a state of obsession, constant recollection